Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Great. We're great to have everybody here, and we're honored this afternoon to have Miss Mona Hardin and her daughter Alana, who are the, did I say that right? Alana, all right. Who are the mother and the sister, respectively, of Mr. Ronald Greene. My name is Hershey Jones, and we have Miss.
Hey everyone, I'm Jayla Ritchie.
And then we also have on the podium Mr. Carl. Carl, would you introduce yourself?
Yes, good evening, Carl Cavalier, former Louisiana State Trooper.
So our program today will focus on the death of Miss Greene's son, Mr. Ronald Greene. Is everyone familiar with that incident? He was killed in May of 2019 by the state police. He was stopped late one night. The state troopers attempted to stop him, and they said he was speeding, and this is their version. They said he was speeding and he didn't stop immediately. And then eventually he ended up dead. When they communicated with Miss Mona, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm not going to tell the story. Let me let Miss Mona tell it. Then she can tell it as she heard it and as it developed, and I think that may be the best way. Then she and her daughter will give their presentation about the story, and then we'll have some questions, and then our student moderator will have questions, and then we also have on the panel Carl, who was the whistleblower that eventually informed everybody and did his own investigation while he was a state trooper that brought to light the incidents we're talking about today. So I won't try to tell the story. Let me let Ms. Mona tell the story, and then we'll progress from there. Is that okay? All right, here we are.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. It's my pleasure to be here with all of you. I'm saddened that so many going into 4 years still don't know about the murder of my son, Ronnie. But like they say, better late than never. This exists, and it continues to exist. Almost 4 years back, and there's been so many more killings beside Ronnie. It was on May 10th, 2019, right before getting up for work. I had a phone call. My daughter Alana woke me and told me, "Mom, Ronnie was in an accident." I woke up and I said, "What are you, an accident?" And she stalled and she said, "He didn't make it, Mom, he died." And my feet just went out from under me. What happened that day is we went out. I gathered my daughters together. We're in Orlando, Florida. And we went out looking for the procedures, went to different funeral homes to see what are the procedures to bring my son from Louisiana to Florida, because he was in West Monroe at the time of his murder. And in the midst of going to a funeral home, multiple funeral homes, we also found out that we had phone calls from Louisiana. It doesn't look right. The medical examiner, Glenwood Medical Center, told a family member, this is not what they say it is. The police reports just don't match up. And conversations like this just kept going throughout the day. We also got in touch with the, at the time, Abby Moon. We got in touch with Abby Moon. She's the coroner, I'm sorry. Y'all please forgive me because I talk of Ronnie and I go into anxiety and what we found out, I just have to say this. My son was killed, and we found out then and there. That's when things start getting ugly. He's going to, by the time you get here, he's going to have his first autopsy. And we were floored because they sent him to Little Rock, Arkansas for his first autopsy. There was nothing we could do to get her to keep him where he was. I said, I don't want my son moved. I want to see him. I don't want anyone else to touch him. And she said, it's out of my hands. So in the midst of all that, and she wouldn't give us the name of where he was being sent, the medical center in Arkansas, phone number, email, she said she didn't have it. So the cover-up happened within hours of the phone call that said he died in a car wreck. So this was the ugliness that we've been dealing with. And I'll let my daughter take it from here. She's a little more fluent.
Good evening, everyone. As you can see, it's been almost 4 years and we're still traumatized by a murder that shouldn't even have happened. So on May the 9th, 2019, I received a call around 3:30 a.m. saying that my brother was in a car accident. I said, what do you mean? It was the 9th. I'm sorry. As you can see, the trauma continues. It was the 10th. In my mind, he died on the 9th because he was actually dead on the scene. So, to me, his death was on the 10th. But on May the 10th, at 3:30, I received a call saying that my brother was in a car accident. He went through a windshield. He hit a tree, went through a windshield, and he died on impact. I said, who am I speaking to? That's when the cover-up happened. They wouldn't even tell me who I was speaking to at the time. So I said, okay, he died. What happened? They said he died from an accident. I said, okay. So I called my mother, told her what happened. Let's get our stuff, let's ride. We going to Louisiana. So in the midst of us driving, we were trying to get everything together as far as the arrangements, trying to figure out where his body was, make sure that his body was intact, because we knew as children, if you got stopped by the state of Louisiana, that 9 times out of 10 you were going to be beat. I moved to Louisiana when I was 6. I had a best friend that worked with the police office, and she was a teenager at the time, and she said, look, that's true, it's happening. So during the ride, we found out that his body, that night, he went to the hospital, he was transferred to Arkansas. First off, if a guy died in a car accident, why do you need to send his body to another state? Right? It makes no sense. Then when he went to the hospital, even the doctor said, look, something doesn't add up. This guy had prongs. They tased him. He had prongs in his body. Did the tree tase my brother? I don't think so. So obviously we knew that something had happened. So I remember it like it was yesterday. So you don't know, once you arrive to the hospital, when my nephew got there, he was like, look, Auntie, something happened to Uncle Ron. He did not die in a car accident. When you see his body, we actually exposed the pictures. So if you get a chance, go online and look. He had black eye. They hit him with their flashlight. He had about 5 or 6 half moon indents inside of his skull. What else, Mom? I'm so sorry, you guys. Yeah, he was swollen, unrecognizable.
We were told he was bleeding out of his eyes.
Yes, he was bleeding outside of his eyes and nose, and
He was under guarded situation. They could not take pictures. There was guards around him.
yes. And that's the crazy thing, and this is what you guys need to understand. If something happens to your family member, you need to look at the whole picture, okay? So we're talking about the coroner's office. We're talking about where he got his autopsy. We're talking about each individual entity. We're talking about the hospital. Every time we call somewhere and ask, what is going on with our brother? What's going on? The first question they asked us was, where are you at? What kind of question is that to ask someone calling about their dead loved one? They wanted to know, where were we at? So that was obviously a red flag. So as we was going, my mom begged them, please do not take his body. The coroner promised us that she would not do it. Come to find out, she actually took him to Arkansas, and by the time we got there, he was already back in the States. So we would have never known. And then we called there and asked them, and they said there was no Ronald Greene there. Right? Okay. And then, I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank right now. So anyways.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
When did they identify who they were? Did they ever say this is the state police?
Yes, they did say they're the state police. I asked them, what was his name? Were you on the scene? And they couldn't give us that information.
Did they tell you he was beaten that night?
No. They said he went through the windshield. He died on impact.
Now,
If you look at the vehicle, the window wasn't shattered. The car was barely banged up. They actually crashed into the side of the vehicle.
I mean, they as in the state police.
As in the state troopers.
State police.
They tried to stop him and block him in. They said he hydroplaned, but the ditch was like this deep. It wasn't even deep at all. Then they tried to make it seem like it was a high-speed chase, which it probably started out that way, but they blocked him into a dead-end road, and they didn't realize that one of the homes that was right there had video camera. So they actually told the lady, look, it was actually on Facebook. She posted it on Facebook. They said, we know that this gentleman did not die from a car accident. We heard him screaming for his life. They beat him to death. And then, of course, one of our friends called us locally and said, look, your brother didn't die in a car accident. This is all on Facebook. The lady lived in Arkansas. So they told the lady, look, if you don't come here and give us this video, we're going to break into the house. So they were already trying to cover it up.
Now, let me just clarify. The accident happened in Louisiana,
Union Park in Farmerville.
but the young lady who posted it, did she live in Arkansas?
She had two homes.
Gotcha.
So she was in Farmerville, I guess, during the summer and maybe there in the fall, I guess. But
Was she black or white?
she was a white lady.
She posted something on Facebook making that statement, and immediately it was taken down, correct? But we did take a picture of that, what we read, just to show that it did exist. She was only too glad to give us, and mind you, we were able to receive that upon leaving Florida. We ended up going to Louisiana. We were there a total of 9 days. We were able to get the house cameras on the third, fourth day when we actually got that, right? Within that time frame. She was more than glad to give that to us. My other son had that. It was a total of 30-something hours worth of looking at frame by frame to see. It was grainy, but you could still see. But the point is, there was someone there that saw it. There was someone there who was willing to talk of it. What was first told to us, that Ronnie died in a car wreck, and what actually happened was two total different stories. We found that out within days of getting in Louisiana. The fact that we actually got a chance to go to State Troop F, and we saw it was a fenced-in compound. Within that fence was the car that Ronnie drove, very minimum, and it wasn't dented in. It was like scrapes on the side of the driver's side, because when you see the video, you see where Ronnie was tased from the passenger side. So yes.
How did you find out about the video? They didn't tell you.
No. We were told well over a year. Oh no! At first we didn't know. We had no access to it. We had no idea. That was made available through AP, and we were just flabbergasted. Do you want this shown? And we were like, heck yes. We want everybody to see.
When you say AP, you mean
Associated Press.
Let me just say this too. So when my brother, the night before my brother was murdered, he was selling everything in his house. He was moving back to Florida that next day. Ronald had over $3,000 on him. They not only murdered my brother, but they robbed him.
Wow.
They took all of the money that they had on him.
Now, I've never heard that before.
They robbed him. So when he,
We did get 400.
no, listen though. So when we went to the hospital to get his stuff, they said, yeah, he came in here with a lot of money. So when they gave us the money, it was only $166. We said, hold on, he had thousands of dollars. He sold everything he had. Where's the rest of his money? And then $200 more showed up. So it went from $166 to $366. They not only took his cash on him, but they took the money in his ATM account. These are the troopers that's supposed to serve and protect you.
What do you mean by took the money in his ATM account?
His Visa card, they went to the ATM. They took it out. He had $1,000 in his account. It was gone. He had over $3,000 cash on him. It was $2,000 or $3,000. The cash they took, and I think he had $1,000 on each card, and they both were gone. Zero balance. They took everything that he had on him.
Wow.
Disgusting.
How did you find out about the video? How long did it take you to find out there was a videotape?
We didn't find out it was a videotape until a year.
Oh.
A year. September 2020.
September, October.
September
2020.
2020, yeah.
2020.
And how did you find out? Now, let me just clarify for you. Well, you said your son was killed in May 10th incident of 2019. And in September, October 2020, you learned of a videotape, and AP, Associated Press, discovered it. Is that what you said?
Yes.
So the state police never told you, hey, we got a videotape to show he had a crash?
No. They constantly told us it's under investigation. They couldn't release anything. At one point, the feds called us and said, what do you want us to do? Do you want us to investigate? So I'm not talking about your local divisions. I'm talking about the feds asked us, what do you want us to do? We want you to do what you were going to do if it was us killing you.
Well, let me ask you, tell us what the videotape showed.
So the videotape showed them pulling over my brother. My brother, the first thing he said was, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm scared. I was scared. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're my brother. That was it. Constantly. I'm scared. Yes, sir. No, sir. They hauled Tyre, they pulled him out the car. They tased him within seconds, okay? My brother was tased like 7 or 8 times, or was it 9?
It's up there.
Is-
Both inside the car.
And for those who don't know, this is Ron Haley. Can you please stand? This is our family attorney.
Oh.
Yes. So they tased him within seconds.
Behind the wheel when they first.
He was behind the wheel. He put his hands up. They drug him out of the vehicle, and then they just start beating him. Why were you speeding? What are you doing? It was just a simple traffic stop. And we didn't even know why they stopped him till a year and almost a half later. We kept asking him, what happened? What did he do? Did he run a light? What did he do? Stop sign. They couldn't tell us.
And for the record, if you Google Ronald Greene beating, you can pull up the videotape. But for those of you who hadn't seen it, if you imagine the Tyre Nichols tape, it's very similar.
So they beat him. They tased him. And if you all don't know, there's also a police officer named Christopher Hollingsworth. He actually, there's a video, if you look at it, he said, I beat the ever living F out of him. After that video was released, he allegedly died in a car accident. So in my mind, the state trooper is like a game. All right? You either going to go out one or two ways. We're either going to take you out, or you can do it yourself. And he did it the cowardly way.
Now, let me ask you, I read at some point the governor of Louisiana saw the videotape. Did I read that wrong?
What a coward. He said he was made aware of it within like a week, but he didn't do anything. He said he did not see the video until we saw the video with the family. Right, Mom?
We found out a different story much later.
When we did see the video, well over a year later, we didn't see, there was pieces at the very beginning we did not see. They fast forwarded. We never saw the video from the very beginning to the very end. So they skipped a lot. Even Governor Edwards said that we saw where it was another state trooper, John Clary came in. He was a superintendent over Troop F at the time. We did not see that part. It was, what we saw was fast forwarded. We saw this. No, you don't want to see that. Let's go here. This is some more running, more chasing. Skip that. That's how, we never saw it from the very beginning to the very end. Not there at the state trooper's compound. And the narrative was continued to be controlled. It was just like that from the very beginning. Everything was still controlled. It was a scary situation because intimidation, being there in Louisiana, being surrounded by all these top brass, these cruisers. They tried really hard to intimidate us. The first year was a scary one, but it's not like that anymore. We see the evil that we're fighting that still exists and the killing that still goes on. And everyone needs to be more vocal and put your stories out there. Help families tell their stories. This just won't go away. No matter what happens, we have to keep pushing through.
I just wanted to say, for those who saw the video, you saw that my brother was not resisting, all right? So the narrative was he was resisting, and they couldn't get him under control. He immediately put his hands up and said, I'm sorry, I was scared, I'm scared. He said that throughout the entire video. They beat him so much. The supervisor had so much blood on his hands, he said, I hope this MF don't have AIDS. That's why he didn't want to pick him up and sit him up so he could breathe. And then the supervisor said, just leave them like that. So if you get a chance, look at the video. You will see, I mean, these are the people that's supposed to protect and serve you. So I really appreciate you all being here tonight. Because like my mother said, it was very scary for us the first year. Even the first attorney before we got Ron told us, look, leave, go to Jackson, Mississippi. We got there, we did not see the body because was it gone at the time? No, it was there. The body was there, but we were so scared. They told us to get out, go to Jackson, Mississippi, where there's more people like us, and you're going to be safe for tonight, because it was dark. Then we went back, and the troopers called us, and they said, look, we have his social, we have his ID. These are the things you're going to need. When we went there, they wouldn't release it. They kept, for 9 days, we were going to and fro. The police, the hospital report was 40 pages. They only gave us 8. So everything, it was all redacted. So you have the hospital that was working against us. You have the coroner that was working against us. You have the state troopers that was working against us. The funeral home director, when we went to go see his body, they were like, stop, You can only see from his chest down, and wouldn't release any of this. So when they beat him, the ribs and all this other stuff, when they went in, they stole his organs. Did I say that? They stole this man's organs. They stole his heart. They stole his, what else, Mom? Part of his brain. His throat. Took it on out. Who does this? But you don't see all of this in the media. Disgusting. So when I tell you, it's hard. The trauma is still here. It's hard for us to really talk about it, and we kind of skip versions and go back and forth because it leaves you numb. Honestly, it leaves you numb inside. My husband got stopped last week for driving while black. The police were on the other side of the road, and they came and stopped him on his way to work. He called 911. He would not stop until he was in a lit area. My husband was scared for his life. They said, what are you doing? Why you call 911? He said, you guys killed my brother-in-law. He said, I know what happened. This is not his first time being stopped. Going to work. This man was going to work. They said they stopped him because his lights were out with his license tag. How could you see that when you're on the other side of the road? So you guys better stay woke. This is real. It's happening right here. And if you ain't scared, I'm pretty sure you should kind of be aware of what's going on with this information. Because they're not only going to kill you, they're going to rob you. They're going to paint this picture narrative that you were resisting when you're getting your license and your registration. Oh, they got a gun. Shoot in your back and it's okay. You're running away. How are you fearful for your life? I was fearing for my life. I had to kill him, and he's running away. For a whole year, for 3 years, my son could not drive his car to school. A college student. I had his white friend driving his car for 3.5 years. I made him take a picture of their ID. I just want you safe. Every weekend, I talk to my son. What are you doing? Where are you going? I'm going to church. I'm going to work. And I'm going to school. He doesn't do anything. He don't drink. He don't smoke. He don't do nothing. He loves the Lord. And I thank God for that.
Amen.
But you got to teach your children at a young age. All right? I know we're supposed to love one another. But God also told us there's a time we got to fight. And I don't mean use your hands. Use your voice. Vote. Stand up for what's right. If you don't know, there's a target on our back. And it's so sad that we have to live in fear. But I do believe that my brother's killing was not in vain. Because there's too much stuff out there that shows the exact narrative for my brother's story. And we know that he was not resisting. We know that he was not combative. He was scared. He put his hands up. He did everything right that night, and there's no reason why he shouldn't be here today.
Let me make one comment. And then we got to kind of put this in perspective, if you go back to Tyre Nichols' case, and I tell Miss Mona that, you know, the good Lord knows how to expose evil. If you look at the Tyre Nichols case, which recently happened, the initial narrative was he was resisting, and the initial reports didn't talk about the beating either. But we have the videotape, and you can see the officers in the videotape putting together the story. Oh, he was going for my gun. I saw him going for your gun. Videotape showed none of that. So what she's really saying, go back and look at the Tyre Nichols, that it was like an immediate response. And I saw an interview with Tyre Nichols' mom, and she said they told her the same thing. Oh, your son's in the hospital, didn't tell him what happened. You know, something happened, and told him he couldn't go to the hospital, he couldn't go see him. So I just wanted to say that it's not just with her, and that wasn't just Louisiana, but this was in Memphis, Tennessee. And I dare say other cases I've been involved in, my first police case I shared with them, I was interviewing the officer based on the press release, and the officer said, "Where'd you get that from?" I said, "Well, this is the press release of what happened." He said, "I don't know anything about that." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "I didn't talk to anybody." And that was in 1998. Maybe it was 97. I was like, what? So I didn't know what it was until about 20 years later, Dr. Ishmael, that the initial cover-up did not start with the officer that killed the guy, but it started with the supervisors above him. So one of the things we wanted to bring out today is, as you focus on the officer doing the shooting, you can't take your eyes off the response. Because when you see the Tyre Nichols case, you see what a good response ought to look like. And here we are 4 years later, and I don't think the state of Louisiana has to date accounted or acknowledged that they covered it up. But anyway, we're going to turn it over to tell me your name.
My name is Jayla Ritchie. I'm the director of the Student Advisory Board for the Center of Racial Justice. So, we have subsections for each question, so we're gonna roll into them at one time. But first, let's talk about Ronald, who he was as your son, as your brother, his childhood, his upbringing. Let's kind of talk about who he was and remember him for his livelihood.
Ronnie was my very first. I can remember he was just so special. He was so beautiful. He still is. I call him my Ronnie because he is, all my children are my babies. No matter how old you are, you're still a baby to me. But Ronnie was a good kid. He was a hardworking young boy, young man, always. And always giving, always kind, always considerate. And always gave of himself, to where as he got older, he ended up having cancer. He survived that. We were afraid. That's the one thing that we thought would take him. I remember he was right after his surgery. What he had was called chondroblastic sarcoma. And he had it in his, we thought it was an abscess in his gum. And they ended up taking all the top of his teeth out, the roof of his mouth. What he had was a mouthpiece called an obturator. And when he came home from the hospital, he was in MD Anderson, Orlando, Florida. That's the one thing I saw. He was crying in the shower. I heard him. I remember that as I speak. Other than that, he was always fighting. He always achieved all obstacles. This is the one time I saw him almost broken because he was what happened. But he overcame that almost immediately. Yeah. We were all just, this is his spirit. This is his spirit. He overcame that. And fast forward to what ended up taking him from us, the ugliness. It's just so unbelievable. He was so good-hearted. And the ugliness, I raised all, we weren't raised to see color. My family is a gamut of all nationalities. My children, we just never saw color. And for this to happen to Ronnie, I can say one thing. When I do go into a room now, and I have to say honestly, if there's a lot of whites, I literally will look around, my face gets tight, and I get angry. I look at life totally different. I see Louisiana totally different. And I must say that this is my family. This is the kind of life that's been thrown to us. We live totally different. The ugliness that took Ronnie, he was such a beautiful person. It's happened. We're here now, going into 4 years, and we walk this proudly. We walk this for him. We have to. We won't let anyone forget Ronnie.
I just want to say something real quick. If you live in the South, you have a nickname. I have a brother named Caveman. I have a sister named Woody. My nickname is Pepper. But my brother Ronald, his nickname was Heart to Heart. He had a heart, but he had a heart for the people. He was like a second mother. He was like a second mother to me. He made sure our hair was combed. He cooked our meals. He was everything. There was no lack. He made it happen for us. I know my other brother might get jealous sometimes, but he was truly the best brother in the world. Whatever he had was yours. He was so selfless. And he knew if he gave you something, he was given to God's children, and he would never be without. He loved the Lord that much. But that cancer, when he was getting chemo, that hurt him. That hurt him because he felt like he wasn't the same. He felt like he wasn't going to be the same. He would cry. And he didn't want to live. But he had so much to live for.
Before we go to the next question, let me jump to Carl. Carl was a state trooper, and he helped to expose the existence of the tape. And I want to let Carl tell his story on the response of the state troopers to what he did.
Good evening again. I didn't actually expose the tape, the video, the audio. It was about a year past the incident, 2019, May 2019 when the incident happened. 2020, I was at the convention center working the detail around the time when COVID was still prominent. When I overheard an investigator who had investigated the Ronald Greene case, overheard him speaking candidly about the video that no one heard of. So what he was saying was that this situation was worse than George Floyd. I'm jumping around on it, but this situation was worse than George Floyd. Another trooper or officer arrived on the scene while he had Ronald face down on the ground and placed his foot on the guy's back. Ronald was gurgling blood. These are some things I remember from him speaking. So I was just listening while a bunch of troopers were standing around talking, and it piqued my interest. So I started doing a little digging on my own because I've never heard of the case until he spoke about it. And when I started digging, people started sending me information. A large part of information, important information that I found was another investigator's notes. He kept notes on his phone and his iPhone. And in those notes, his name is Albert Paxton. He's no longer with State Police. He actually did his job. And in those notes, after he investigated the troopers' action on scene and off scene, the entire case, he brought his findings to the colonel at the time and also some more high-ranking officers at the time while they were on a golf course, I believe his note said. So when he presented his findings to the supervisors in State Police at the time, they pretty much told him, no, hey, you can't charge these troopers with X, Y, Z, whatever he was trying to charge them with for their role in Ronald Greene's murder. The colonel told him, no, you can't do that because you're going to set a bad precedence. You know, you're gonna start something that we don't want to start. You know, you're gonna, I guess, just uncover everything else that's going on in the State Police. But so when I found those notes, I tried talking to a state representative. I tried talking to my supervisors about it. I tried talking to peers about it. No one wanted to hear it. No one wanted to do anything about it. So I eventually went to WBRZ and did an on-camera interview. I didn't know how I was going to put the information out. I didn't know which avenue I was going to use to do that. I just know I was going to do it. I was going to put the information out because it could have been me, could have been my family members, anything like that. And if something was to happen to me that way, I would want someone to react the same. So when I did the on-camera interview, I put those notes out there, and about a year went by of State Police distancing themselves from me, ostracizing me, put me on leave without pay, pretty much suspended me without pay, brought me back to work, kicked me back out. So about a year went by of them sending me letters, emails, telling me to be quiet, sit down, shut up, until eventually they fired me.
And what's the status of that now?
Right now I'm still going through court proceedings with my lawsuit that I filed. I actually filed a lawsuit while I was still employed with State Police. So I'm still going through that process. It's just right now, it's just a waiting game,
Let me ask you, any of the state troopers involved in the beating and death of Ronald Greene or involved in the cover-up of the fire?
Not until recently, not until they were indicted. Now, Chris Hollingsworth, who you guys spoke of earlier, he was the trooper who committed suicide. They're calling it an accident. They call it an accident, but he, after finding out, I think a year or so passed without anything happening to anybody. And once the video and the audio got leaked to the public, State Police was forced to do something. So what they did was tell Chris Hollingsworth that he was going to be fired. So imagine him working a whole year or two, or however long, perfectly fine. He was cool. Whatever happened, whatever role he played, he was cool with it. It wasn't until they told him he was getting fired that he went out and got drunk and decided to drive his vehicle into a guardrail without a seatbelt. Now he's a driving instructor, right? So he knows how to drive. He can drive well, better than probably any of us. So they calling it an accident in my eyes because they wanted his family to get his insurance money. So and it gave him a sending off like he was a hero, you know, gave him the entire, you know, gift wrap ceremony for a funeral or what have you. So yeah, that's one guy that killed himself early on, and as the story continued to come out and more evidence started to come out, you know, you eventually getting these guys getting indicted, which I'll call slap on the wrist charges. You know, it still seem like slap on the wrist to me, but nevertheless they're indicted.
They were indicted in just this past November of 2022. December. Thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to go into some questions regarding the stories that y'all spoke. I know you mentioned driving while black, and also we can kind of throw in there being an organ donor while black, the kind of consequences that happens just while being black. Can you kind of speak on the things that we kind of have to be cautious on as Black Americans, and just people of color in general, things that we can't do just because we are of a different skin color?
Gosh, where do we start? Where do we start? You just can't live. You look at your counterparts. The fact that they're in and outs. There's no limit. There's no time frame when you need to get back home or get your groceries, your kids, everything. Our lives is totally a wreck. I thought we lived normal before, but it's always been on pins and needles until we end up being a statistic. It's just a shame that you don't have freedom to get on the road. I even find myself doing my errands and making sure I'm in before dark. My grandson, Pepper's son, he's a junior now in college, and the fact that his every step is monitored, he's accepted it. She has his location 24/7. Everything. You just can't live. I don't know, everything. I really hate. This is life. This is true. This is real. It's not a nightmare. This is actual 24/7. This is how too many of us live.
I think as Black and brown individuals, they have a camera that you can purchase, that you can put on your rearview mirror, and you can also attach it to the back by your plate. I think the first thing that you should probably do is go out and purchase it. I think it's around $50, so that they won't control the narrative if you're ever pulled over. Definitely want to follow every step that you have to do. Put on your seatbelts. If you get stopped like my husband, go to a lit area, call 911 and just let them know. You wanna be safe when you get out of the vehicle. My husband went to a 7-Eleven and drove to a gas pump. And it was 2 officers, and then they also had their supervisor come out there, and he was like, "What are you doing? You have your CA, you know you can go to jail." He was like, "Well, take me to jail. I'd rather you take me to jail and I have a possibility of living versus you guys taking me out, beating me, and killing me on a dark street," which is, I'm sure that's what they plan to do. Let someone know. Like my son, when he goes out, every day I'm like, did I talk to him today? Did I talk to him today? When I'm taking a shower, oh, what are you doing? I'm at the supermarket. What are you doing? Is anyone drinking? Is anyone smoking? No, Mom, we're just drinking Coke. You know, he's constantly, he knows, you know, pretty much the answer before I put it out there. And make sure, who are you riding with? How many people are over there? I get stats. So when you go out, I would recommend you tell your family where you're going. Especially when you go to like the classic and different things like this. We're even scared to go to the movies in the matinee. Like it is that, we're not calling the police for nothing. If we can't figure it out, it won't get figured out. it's sad to say, but I would say just let someone know where you're going. If you're walking down the street or you're going to your dorm, make sure you're paired up, buddy. Be with someone. Stay in groups, definitely. Stay in groups.
Pepper, would you describe the scene in the area that the incident happened with your brother?
Oh, sure.
And what time of night was they?
Okay, so it was around 10:30, 11 at night. It was, he was going down, well, actually, he was on, is that 165 in Monroe? I think it's 165, the main highway. And he ended up taking a back road, which I'm pretty sure they coerced that. But he ended up at a dead-end road. He was passing a church. He went to a dead-end road, and there was no other homes down there. It was a desolate area. It was a few homes there, but thank God that one home had cameras around it. It was a rainy night. And it was KKK area. It was a KKK area. I have a best friend who lives over there in that area, and she's like, what are you guys doing? You know you can't be here at night. Like, what's going on? And I'm like, look, this is what happened. And she was actually the one that told us about the lady on Facebook. She reached out to the lady and said, hey, this is my sister. I grew up with her since I was 6, so she was my neighbor. And you know, you got the neighbor that you borrow sugar from, and she's just your big sister. That was her. And my brother's her brothers. And she's like, look, this happened to my brother. I need to get the video. And she's like, well, you know, they already threatened me. I gotta come, or they're gonna break into my house if I don't give them the video. So it's scary. Look, but I thank God that she was one of the good ones who decided I'm gonna do the right thing. And honestly, I don't think if she agreed to do that and release that information to us on the down low, that if that other video didn't come out, we would still be living as if my brother died from a car accident.
So during the story, you mentioned that when you arrived at the hospital, it was guarded. It wasn't like just open entry in and out. Can you kind of speak on what was going through your head, even because they weren't giving like the full information? Kind of what was going through your head whenever you seen guards at the door, you couldn't have open access, and then also whenever you were asking questions about the officer's whereabouts during that time. So if the car accident happened at 10 o'clock, why was your brother and your son's bodies down around 3:30? Like, what were the officers doing in that time?
I'm confused with that. You said why you said 3:30?
So what were the officers doing in the for the location when asked about their whereabouts? What were their responses? How did they stage it to make it seem like a car accident, and kind of cover up in a time manner? And why was nobody checking for their whereabouts?
They didn't. There was no answer. Even when we asked, you know, what was the reason for Ronnie being pursued? And they said, well, it could have been anything. And I said, well, what exactly was it? They were totally aggravated that we asked that. So there was no cooperation whatsoever. We had to put these pieces together. We were there a total of 9 days, and they didn't tell us anything. When my grandson was there to see Ronnie within a couple hours after they killed him, he said that the guards was there, and they couldn't touch Ronnie, take pictures, anything. Made him put his phone away, correct? And that intimidation was there. It was.
So you would have RNs walking by saying, hey, he did die from a car accident. They're whispering this stuff. They're scared because they're going to get tired. He had prongs in him. So how if you died from a car accident, you got these prongs in your body?
So Pepper, you're saying everybody in the world knew how he died, but you didn't.
Exactly. And even the doctor said something doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. So they murdered him. He died on the scene. You can see in the video where everyone's just walking slow. He's already dead. No one tried to perform nothing. Nothing. No mouth to mouth, no nothing. Right? One of the supervisors parked his vehicle at one of the neighbor's house, got in the EMT vehicle, and tried to make sure that they tried to resuscitate him. His arm had already had gangrene set in. He was already stiff. He was dead. So in my mind, he died on the night. But they pronounced him dead on the way to the hospital when he was dead on the scene.
We can pause for 1 second. Our high school students need to leave, so we want to thank our high school students for coming to the event tonight, and they're ready to leave.
Do you wanna open it up for questions?
We're gonna do that, but they're gonna need to leave. Okay. As the bus, and let the students and people leave. But we appreciate you all coming out. Yeah, let's take a photo with the family.